Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Raven Maureen. And as you can see, I have a really big quilt with me today. And I told you I was going to make quilted pants. Here we are. We're about to do this. And let me show you the pattern I'm using. My girl Ella, Nomi 2033. Yep. And I have been in love with this pattern since it came out. I just love the pants and like the design on the pants. It's got that contrast. I haven't seen anything like that. And I had originally wanted to make this for like the summertime, didn't work out. And I have this really great contrasting quilt that I got from the Goodwill a few months back. So I think I'm gonna do this with that pattern. I've already cut out my pattern pieces. I cut out a size 16 and we're gonna do this. We're getting into it. I have my electric scissors. We're ready to go. So I'm gonna use this for the small accent piece, this part right here. And then the red will be the dominant part of the pants. So this part right here. So I decided that I was gonna use my electric scissors for this. And so I started laying out my pieces and whatnot. And I wanted to pretty much test a part of it because I realized that this is pretty thick, but the electric scissors can cut through anything. So at this point, I kind of realized like doing double layers is not going to work. And so I'm going to have to cut everything, even with the electric scissors, on a single layer, which is going to take more time, but I at least won't be forcing something that could possibly be dangerous or even just like completely ruin my project. Next, I decided to cut my pockets and my back waistband and my facing with this red sheet that I had in my stash. That way I can reduce bulk. And then the front waistband I actually kept in the quilted fabric. I followed the instructions on the pattern. They ask you to stay stitch the curves of the pants, which make perfect sense because it's a curve. And then I decided, because this quilt is just so thick, I did not want to force it through my serger, so I actually did zigzag stitches along the raw edges, which did take a little bit longer, but again, like I said, I'm able to have a little bit more control with that, and I didn't really want to force that through my serger and possibly ruin a needle, several needles, my knife, anything. I should also mention here that I actually did a much wider stitch length. So my machine usually is sitting at like a 2.4, 2.5 stitch length. I actually went up to like a 4.2 stitch length for this. And because the fabric was so thick, it literally looked like it was a 2.4 stitch length. And I didn't see any issue with loose thread or anything like that. It just all seemed to stay together. And again, this is all because the fabric is super thick. Okay, so I wonder clipped the first leg. This is cute. I like this. I really wasn't sure with the curves how this was gonna go, but this is how it goes. I kind of like it. All right, I'm gonna keep going. So I want it to be on this side. This is like where I got stressed out on the first try. Let me grab my wonder clips. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like a roller coaster ride. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but you kind of have to like follow the curve with the pinning. And depending on, I imagine depending on the fabric that you use, you're probably gonna have to clip in the notches on this. I didn't have to, but I can definitely see that being a thing. And another reason I'm glad I'm using my wonder clips is because I can make sure that I am actually putting it on the right side as intended. See, it like feels wrong the entire time, but I'm just over here trusting the process. Like, even though it feels wrong and there's notches along the way, I'm just like, trust the process. It'll work out. All right. So now I'm gonna sew this just like I did the other one. So now I'm just adding my pockets. I'm doing my regular 3/8 seam allowance, and then I'll do a press and then do a top stitch to kind of keep this in place. Okay, so these are the back pair. And these are the front pair. Not much of a difference, but you get it. I'm gonna take a quick break and get back to that later. So far, it's been a pretty decent process. Like, the pants are fairly easy, especially with the unconventional fabric that I'm using and whatnot. So my break turned into, I'll get to this tomorrow. So it's the next day, and I am pretty much sewing the pant legs together. So the instructions call for you to sew the front and back pieces of each leg together, and that's what I'm doing right here. And of course I'm using my wonder clips because I do not think using pins for this would be, I just don't think that'll be fair. At this point, you got to use these wonder clips. As I continue to sew the pant legs, I am starting to realize just how labor intensive this is because the fabric is so thick. And I know this is like my 10th time saying it, but I really underestimated just how thick this was. And so I am really just struggling with the seams at this point and just trying to push through, but the fabric is thick. I'm actually on my second needle with this. I switched from a universal needle to like a denim needle because the first one broke because the fabric was just, it was just so thick, you guys. So I say all that to say, if I was to do this project again, I would probably have to make a quilt from scratch using extremely light batting. That way this is durable and conducive and probably like much easier to sew, because right now the weight of these pants are very much kin to sewing a fur jacket, and I've been there. So I just have to laugh at myself because at this point I am over it, and I am realizing that these pants can really stand up on their own. Like, I love these pants, but you guys, the labor to put this together. So I am putting one pant inside the other. I'm trying to make sure that the notches actually match and that the front is going with the front and the back is going with the back. And yeah, so it's getting harder because now I have more seams, and I'm actually having to like keep the seams open in order to make sure that I don't have too much bulk in certain places. So this is becoming increasingly harder to manage with the sewing, but I'm pushing through because at this point this is what I wanted. I am moving at an incredibly glacial pace while I zigzag 2 layers of this really thick quilt fabric together. So at this point, I'm like 80% done. I have steamed these pant legs to the gods, and I'm gonna add my waistband and we're gonna be done. In addition to the cloth waistband, I also did a bias tape hem on the bottom. So this is the final look. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.